Okay, Anji, please take over.
Thank you, ma'am. A warm good morning and welcome to each and every person. I welcome you all to this month Annie Empower Hour that is on human factors in patient safety. In healthcare, human factors knowledge help decision process that made it easier for all healthcare personnel to do the job right. Human factors applications are highly relevant to patient safety because embedded in the discipline of human factors engineering are the basic science of safety. To enlighten us on this topic, we have an eminent speaker, Ms.Viji George, and 3 panelists. It is my immense pleasure to welcome Ms.Viji George, an eminent nurse leader. Viji George works as the Clinical Excellence Program Manager and the Magnet Program Director at Texas Health Resources for Multi-Hospital System. She is a graduate in nursing from the prestigious Armed Forces Medical College, Pune, and she is a certified neonatal nurse too. She, sorry. She is also chair of many hospital committees, co-researcher in Institution Review Board Certified Research, Texas Christian University Evidence-Based Practice Fellowship, and CNO Academy alumna. She has made various national and international publications to her credit. Her professional passions have led to international ventures like Sigma's Global Leadership Mentoring Community member and founding Indo-American Evidence-Based Practice Fellowship Academy through collaboration with the Johns Hopkins Nursing Evidence-Based Practice. Her accolades include awards like Dallas Fort Worth Great 100 Nurses and Nurse Excellence in Leadership. Being a passionate learner, she is currently pursuing her doctorate in nursing practice in nurse executive track. I really appreciate her passion for this, as this is at midnight, 1 o'clock in Texas, and she is present as a pleasant person. I'm really grateful to you, ma'am. And over to you, ma'am. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Dr. Aji. I will now share my screen. I just want to share this bunch of elephants to you because we can remember many things from nature. Especially I choose elephant because they are one of the safest and majestic animals on earth. And they are also highly visible in Kerala. So since this Kerala chapter is organizing this Annie's Empower Hour, I thought, okay, this is a perfect combination. As a child, whenever I visited Kerala, my parents are from Kerala, my dad used to take to the animal camp, that is elephant camp in Koni, where they trained these wild animals. And he also told me certain things about specialities about the elephants, stating that elephants are very strong. It's human brain that has made them as domestic animals. So I always wondered, what is that one thing that man can capture these big, huge animal. What he told me is that often in the wild, they travel in herds as a team, taking care of each other. If one goes away from that herd, that's when they are in danger. So with that thing in mind, just remember this picture, and we'll go from there to our main part today on the role of human factors in patient safety. I especially want to thank Annie for this opportunity and the Kerala chapter for hosting me today. Special thanks to the president of Annie, Tangam, and also the president of the Kerala chapter, Lieutenant Colonel Dr. Aji, and my dear friend, Ajita, who is my classmate, as well as who's the one who inspired and motivated to join Annie. And when I joined Annie, it was a great, huge honor to see that what a great group of leaders this is. This is truly a group of powerhouse, the nurses who can change or can uplift the profession to the next level. And they are in the right path. And I'm really excited to be here as part of this to share some of the best practices from an organization that I belong to. So I do not have any conflict of interest. So my disclosure is whatever I'm going to share here today is basically from my experience and my knowledge that I've gathered from my school and the experience that I've seen in this organization, which is considered as one of the best in healthcare system here in the US. It is called a high reliable organization, healthcare, number 7 in Fortune 100 companies, as well as one of the best in healthcare, and also best for women to work. So what else you need, right? So with their permission and with some of what I have seen, I want to share some practical tips. We all have many resources, but main objective for today's presentation is that I'm just going to keep it very simple, that if the participants from this presentation can enumerate a few human factors that is involved in patient safety, and at least one best practice you can identify from my presentation that you can take today and implement in your clinical practice. Knowledge is in our fingertips. So I'm not going to talk basically about the definition or different things that's involved with the patient safety, because you can find these resources on your phone, on your laptop, from the websites. They have so many free resources from World Health Organization, National Academy of Medicine, which was previously called as the Institute of Medicine, the Institute of Healthcare Improvement, Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality. All those are great free resources on patient safety. They've got a lot of patient safety tools too. But what's the use of knowledge if you're not putting it into practice? So my effort is that it only becomes useful and meaningful to you and me if what I have, I can practice it. What would be better than to have to practice it for the safety of a patient? Why patient safety? We often ask this question, why so much focus on patient safety? We all have heard this Alexander Pope's quote about to err is human. And I believe you all agree, right? Unfortunately, we all make errors. And yes, we have made errors. I would encourage you and be bold if you want to enter in the chat some of the errors that you have made or you have seen in healthcare. Don't be afraid. Even I was involved in some of the medication errors, from which I learned that we are in a serious healthcare business where patient lives are in our hands. So if you're putting that in the chat, Dr. Aji, can you see that? Can you read if someone has put any errors there that they have come across? If you're hesitant, I'll start sharing the list.
Noted, ma'am.
Nobody. So yeah, we often hesitate to put things out in front. We are hesitant to be transparent. Why are we hesitant? No matter what all safety things we put out there, we still are prone to make mistakes. So as I assumed that I may not get some on the chat, so let me put some of the list out there. And now you'll say, oh yes, I have seen some of these errors in my practice, right? Does this list seem familiar to you? Even with all these error prevention tools and systems, we still see these things happening. Even surgery on the wrong side. Can you imagine a patient's emotional situation when you have a problem in your left leg and you got amputated in the right leg? What would you answer to that? What if it is your spouse, your child, or your parent? One of the very interesting thing is nerve-sensitive injuries. Now, I do not know if you have heard, if there's the same term that you use there. Some of the nerve-sensitive injuries that is related to the nursing care is a pressure sore or pressure injuries, or CLABSI, then COTI, like catheter-induced infections, falls. Some of these things are related to shortage of staffing, human factors. So these are a lot of errors. Unfortunately, these are the errors we cannot erase with an eraser, right? One story comes to my mind, the cost of error. I would encourage you to go and read the story of Josie King. Josie King's story is very touching, like how multiple places this child was showing the sign of many problems, but everyone missed to catch it. Eventually this child died. And Sorrel King, the child's mom, became a patient safety advocate in the US. And she's very active, and the whole propaganda about that, and this became priority, that safety should be taken care very seriously, very seriously. So I'm not going to go into the detail of the story. We have limited time, so I want to be respectful about some of the things that we are going to discuss here. Mainly, my focus is to share some of the best practices. I know that you have had some of the safety empower hours previously, and many things were discussed in detail. The factors that is affected the patient safety, the physical patient factors. Patient factors are related to that, their lack of knowledge or their situation. If they're very sick or they're coming to the hospital towards the end of a health or a disease condition, things like that is what patient factors. Then physical, environmental, safety measures, protocols that is in place, organizational structure, and ultimately, yes, human factors too. A few of the human factors. Now you can see in this picture, which is also called like the Swiss cheese, it has got holes. There's always a chance that you can deflect any errors, but unfortunately, if all these holes are lined in one, you will miss that safety net. As mentioned here, if there is a wrong prescription written, the pharmacist has not seen it. And even if you have the computer system, sometimes you have seen this computer gives you a warning. Are you sure you want to administer this dose? And we have a manual override, right? We can say override, and in a rush, we may not read it correctly. We can override it. So nurse can also miss just before administering, even though we all know 5, now it is called 6, rights that we look into before giving a medication. And if the patient is knowledgeable at or had a previously this medication, may be able to detect that. What if the patient is not aware of what he's getting, or he's not able to read or write, is not educated, or just a lay person? Even an educated person, if he's not feeling well, you are not going to pay attention to what medication you are getting, correct? So that's where the human factor comes. But what are some of the things that can influence? What are the things that we include in human factors? There are so many that you can divide into various categories. I just wanted this to be very relatable. We are all, mostly everyone is in an executive position or high leadership position here who are attending this, or even if you're practicing in the clinical field, teaching field, no matter where you are, you have seen this and you have experienced it yourself. I know when my kids were little, I worked night shift for 13 years and I worked in a very intensive work environment in the neonatal ICU. It is such a problem that you're hardly getting 1 hour, 2 hours of sleep, and you're going to take care of this non-stop alarm in the ICU, the neonatal ICU. And between that 2 to 5, if not busy, I know that in between dozing off. The alarms will go off, you may pay attention, you may not pay attention. I have experienced that myself. So the training of the staff, you know that someone who is trained from a college that is accredited compared to the person who's got a shorter training without an accreditation, but still get to practice nursing. I will specifically focus here on nursing because most of the people who are attending today is nurses. Or the knowledge and the skill. A novice nurse compared to an expert nurse who have got years of experience. Sometimes it's just our attitude, our commitment. A lot of the people who come to nursing are not coming to nursing because they're passionate about nursing or they want to take care of patients. A job security, and even an opportunity in some different country, or what was that reason that they made it to. So if you're looking at it from different factors, all these are going to influence the way we are going to work, and we are dealing with human lives here. Stress, fatigue, the physical condition. Many of us have seen the devastating effect of the pandemic that we are seeing, which is still continuing. Burnout, those things are very real. But out of all those things, one of the most important, almost 90%, they say at times, can be avoided is with that one thing, is a communication. Whether it is a problem in relationship or whether it is a problem in safety, communication is very important, correct? I mean, I'm sure that you will agree to that. But the things that is in our control, there are many things, someone's training, someone's experience, attitude, or they come to work even if they are not had enough sleep, it's not in our control. But certain tools that can help us to control these human factors, we can implement in our healthcare. Now, what is healthcare? Healthcare is not only to take care of the patient who is sick, but also to promote health. And National Academy of Medicine has identified like one of the most important thing that should be focused in healthcare for best and cost-effective is safety, quality, and consumer experience. A focus on consumer experience, whether they are getting the care that they want in their terms, what they know, following their culture, their beliefs, and everything. So on that, safety is the top priority. We cannot compromise safety. So how can we implement safety and make it our practice? We have to consider healthcare as a high reliable organization. Now, what is a high reliable organization? High reliable organizations are very, they are highly risky, dynamic in nature, very potentially dangerous, unpredictable, but mostly work error-free. What comes to your mind when we think about high reliable organization? Aircraft, airlines, nuclear medicine, defense. I have a defense background. So we know we have all those strict strategies in place for a reason. So when they did close study to all these high reliable organizations, they noticed that 5 principles are common to these high reliable organizations. Their sensitivity to operations, very strict way of working, checklists. They're preoccupied with failure. Failure is not kind of like accepted. If there is a failure, everything will kind of stop. You know the story of Boeing being grounded for so long when they had, within few months, 2 airplane crash, right? Difference to expertise. It's not maybe because of the title position, but someone's capabilities is, or their expertise is valued. And the work is divided according to that. And the reluctance to simplify. There is no shortcut. Commitment to resilience. These are some of the principles that they follow to have a culture of safety every time. No excuse. Now, what is that culture? Let me give you an example of what the culture is. Very subtle, right? You will know culture. You kind of like grasp it, but you cannot define it or tell it. Have you seen or have you experienced that going to someone's home, beautifully decorated, very coordinated, you're very impressed. But as soon as you spend few minutes with the members in the family or people, like they're very, not warm or kind, it kind of reflects. No matter how beautiful or how great a building is, If the team who are working there or the people in that home or building are not warm, kind, it kind of shows, right? And that's the thing is what is the culture is. It basically tells that in the healthcare that I trust you completely. I'm committing my life in your hands. My safety is in your hands. Now that's a huge responsibility as healthcare workers, don't you think so? And as healthcare leaders, it's our responsibility. How can we implement some of these best practice to have that culture of reliability? It means safety, trustworthy, patients can trust us, dependable. We are true and we are transparent. What are we afraid of? Making mistake, then we have to admit we have made mistake and we will rectify it and we will work together, work with the patient to improve our mistakes and high quality care. All these things are very important to have the culture of reliability. So from the organization that I belong, I just want to bring a few best practices in the next few minutes. And these are called the daily reliability safety briefing. Some of you may be very familiar to some of these things. You may be using it. It's just the nature of how we implement. All these things I quickly want to go one by one. So the first one is a daily reliable safety briefing. Every day morning, and I'm part of that. As a listener, I do not report anything, but I listen to a reliable safety briefing by all the department heads, interdisciplinary team, starting from the, any department, pharmacy, it's the laboratory, it will be the respiratory therapy, rehabilitation, even the environmental services, all the leaders, nursing leaders from different departments, their service expertise or lines, whatever they belong to. It just takes 10 to 15 minutes, depending upon what it is and what they use a sentence. They say, there was no safety issue to report in last 24 hours, and we are set for a safe day. If there is an issue, they will report this was an issue we noticed yesterday or in the last 24 hours, and this needs further exploration. And this is kind of like a protocol, and we have been implementing this every day without fail, except for the weekends. The leaders come together, and that's how they start the day. So that report system goes, and every department knows today radiology is lacking 2 technicians, or our MRI machine is not working today. So there will be an intended delay somewhere. ER is, our emergency department is lacking staff, or there is a patient load is more, then you can expect that, there is a rush for discharging patients. So kind of like it helps everybody in loop what's coming. And that is one of the first safety thing that starts in a day. Next is the daily shift huddle. Huddle in the football, American football I'm talking about, is exactly what this picture shows, that in between the games, they come together to discuss, some strategies to keep each other aware. Hey, that player is this one we have to be cautious of. So this is the same practice we have every shift. It takes only 2 to 3 minutes. Sometimes if there is more information to be shared, maybe 4 or 5 minutes, never more than 5 minutes. Everybody gather in the break room or the staff room or a meeting room, whatever the facilities available. That's how they start the shift. Usually the charge nurse or the in charge or your head nurse, whatever the term you call, who is in charge of that shift is the one will say that the previous shift in charge also will come. 1, 2, 3, 4, who is the team lead today? Who is going to be responsible for the crash cart, or who is, how the assignments are divided. We are short of 1 nurse. We have got surgery 1 today. We are expecting this. So kind of like a quick runabout. So it keeps people on loop, how that day is going to look like, and anticipatory. If like I worked in a NICU, so kind of like we are expecting a triplet, that means 3 set of team is required for the delivery and also to take care of the team here. So we are preparing things according to that. So that's a daily shift huddle. Then we started the practice of bedside handoff. Bedside handoff is one of the simplest things that hospitals can easily practice. Of course, it takes time, but you learn how to do that. People started taking we call the computer on wheels in the room. Every patient has a single room in our hospital. So comparatively takes a little longer time, but depends upon the patient load. Like, you have in ICU, maybe you'll have 1 or 2 patients and their intensity, acuity compared to the medical surgical where 5 patients, but there is time built into the shift for bedside shift report. the patient is part of that. If the family is there, they're part of it. We are not hiding anything and we are not speaking anything that is not. Sometimes we tell them, and it's also a chance for the patient to verify and the next nurse to come and introduce themselves. The next practice is team steps. Team steps stands for team strategies and tool to enhance performance and patient safety. This was developed by the Department of Defense and the Agency of Healthcare Research and Quality. Together, you see this highly reliable organization. They came together basically to come take care of some of the training and how we can improve performance and human factors involvement and things like that. All these things, team steps, if you can Google, you will be able to get more into this. So some of these principles we also follow. Next is the timeout. I'm sure most of you and your operation theaters are using it. And this is a WHO safe surgery list. This list may be a little bit different for everybody, but this is one of the lifesaver. I know that whenever I have gone to high risk deliveries, for a C-section, we all stop. Timeout means everyone has to stop and listen to her. Usually it is a circulatory nurse who calls out the timeout. Everyone quickly introduce each other, whose role is what, everybody's clear of their role and, all those correct patient and things like that. So, and then only then everything starts so that's a great practice and we do that. One other thing that I like is a non-punitive environment in the organization about reporting misses or errors. Near miss, we call near miss, it's kind of like a barrier catch. You have a safety net, you to have a non-punitive environment. In fact, we have a target that this many errors should be reported in a year, kind of like, how you call key performance indicators. So barrier catch or near misses is a key performance indicator because misses happen, errors happen, things like this. So we want to catch it before it can become dangerous. Or if it happened, what went wrong? They have a root cause analysis happens. Then you are going every step and tracking back what happened. Was it a training issue? Was the policy not clear? So actually it's a tool, it's a form, it's a computerized tool that you enter with your name and everything. And then someone looks at it, then safety and risk quality manager, they all look at it and they try to find the cause and rectify it. If a patient is involved, patient complaint, it could be anything, even if it could be bullying issue. So there's a long list of the things that you can enter in this tool. The final and the best is the error prevention tools. The picture like this one is almost posted in almost every unit. And this is where I was talking about the communication thing. So most of you are already using it, I believe. But we practice it. We practice it that every time we communicate about calling a doctor, we use SBAR. This is the situation, this is the background, my assessment is this, and I recommend this, what is your suggestion? And when you're giving me something, say this is the order the doctor is giving me on the telephone, we use a 3-way repeat or 3-way read back. Okay, I'm going to tell you to give this to the patient. So doctor, are you telling me I should give this? Yes, I told you to give this. Kind of like you're repeating it back and forward. Question and results, something you're not comfortable, always ask that what, why, how, when. We are never hesitant to ask a senior nurse or a senior leader or a doctor to ask something that we are concerned about the safety. Something we call, cuss, I'm concerned, I'm uncomfortable, this is a safety issue. Or things like the information is not clear. I have a clarifying question. May I ask you something? And these are certain things that everybody is so used to it that we always use it. When someone is asking, no one feel offended by why that person is questioning me. She's a novice grad nurse. And why she's asking me this? She came just yesterday. That kind of an attitude we want to take away from workplace because it's a responsibility of each and everyone. The patient safety is everyone's responsibility. Cross-checking one another. Like, hey, we don't remember everything, right? Can you check this with me, this medication? Is this the right way I was giving? Or if you notice someone is not doing right, are you sure that, the way you are going to project is, we say that, 5-to-1 feedback, like encourage positive feedback. If someone is doing good, then you need to encourage. So mostly empower them by showing, hey, you did really good. So we have got most valuable safety awards, or little things like, barrier catch award, or like a promise cup, and different kind of award systems and applause systems are then placed to encourage the 5-to-1 feedback. Like you're always giving the most positive feedback. And when that happens, then you can give one negative feedback, saying without hurting people's feelings. Then phonetics and numeric clarification, spelling out, very important. I cannot specify that enough, because this is a real situation. Did I hear right that? And this has really happened. Recently, one of the new nurse, she got this telephone, like, can give 150 milligram of atenolol. So she was about to give that. She took the medication to give, but then she said, this is atenolol. It is, I do not think this is, it's like a high dose medication that I'm giving for this blood pressure issue. I'm not sure. And she called back, and it was middle of the night. She called back. And she said, I have a concern. I just wanted to clarify this. And he said, like, give 150 milligram of atenolol. So you have to spell it out, or you have to make sure, because did the doctor speak in the night, in the middle of the night, half asleep? Or did I, as a nurse sitting, working here, was tired enough? Did I hear right? Because we may not remember all the dosage. So these phonetics, these communication tools are going to be very helpful for each one of us. So from all these things, are we ready to be somewhat like these fellow inhabitants on this earth? The elephant story that I was saying. So next time when you hear, when you see an elephant or a picture of an elephant, think about the safety, at least something that, can we walk together as a team to keep each other safe? We are safe, we have the safety culture. Can we identify errors, be conscious, safety conscious all the time? Studies show that elephants, they have very high level of communication, not with the noise. They don't make much noise. The vibrations or the food things that they make. It's interesting. Go and Google it and read it. It was very interesting for me to the way they communicate, how well they communicate to keep each other safe. No blaming, everybody are in the herd, only sometimes some falter, and that's when they get into a trap. And that's exactly, if you're not keeping each other's back. Safety issues do not happen because of individuals. Of course, it involves human factors, individuals are involved, but most of the time, we have a tendency to blame individual, one person. But when you track back that safety issue, it because a lot of human factors, along with other patient safety factors that we have seen in other sessions and also that I enlisted earlier. So let's focus to move forward with the safety culture always in our mind. Now, many people ask me, okay, great, thanks, but I cannot do this in my organization. My organization will never listen to me. I'm just a clinical nurse, a bedside nurse. And that's where you are empowered. You have to empower yourself with facts, with knowledge. You have this training, you have this critical thinking. How can you put into practice? What speaks? Those who are in executive position or corporate leadership position, money speaks, right? When you show budget and when you show evidence. So always attach, using that as bar tool, some of the tools that we have show in writing, do your background check by literature search, reading it out. What are some of the best practices out there that I can implement in my unit? How much money in the long term it can save? So that's where the evidence-based practice comes. And I'm an evidence-based practice fellow. I'm doing my doctorate in nursing practice, is basically research implementation into the clinical field. Because we have all this knowledge, what are we doing with knowledge? Research takes 17 years to be coming to practice. So doctorate of nursing practice is focused on evidence-based practice. Like you are using the research, which is already done. You're not inventing the wheel, we're bringing it to the clinical field. And that's my passion. I'm involved in an academy, like a kind of a collaboration to share some of these best practices here through a fellowship program that I attended to bring to Indian nurses. And as we all have, I'm sure most of you have had your lamp lighting ceremony. I may not be able to change the world. We cannot do that. Please do not blame anyone else. I only take responsibility for myself. Can I do one thing to keep my patients safe? Can I share one best practice to a fellow nurse who will share with somebody else? you are having this ripple effect. You are lighting that light to one person that someone else is passing, and the light just spreads. Or do you want to be that light that is kept in a room under the table, and when the time comes, it goes off
After
without
briefing, I'll take one now.
So all these things are some of the best practices I wanted to share. I hope that at least one thing that you have seen today, if you know already, but you have not been able to implement, I have inspired you today to take it and implement in your clinical setup. Thank you very much for your time, and appreciate if there's any questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ma'am Viji, for your lucid talk. As there is no question in the chat box, but someone has mentioned that a mistake which was committed, like by administering tablet ecospirin 150 milligram to a cardiac patient without monitoring the platelet count. That was the one comment which I can see in the chat box. As time is running short of time, I have one question. In fact, 3 questions which you have almost touched, but still one little bit clarification. Systems thinking underpins patient safety. You covered it. Does systems thinking improve the perception of safety culture and patient safety? How do we improve systems thinking in nursing? And how do evidence-based practice support this? Even though you mentioned it, anything else you need to, you would like to express more?
It's everything is a system, right? I have been fortunate to learn all these theories, system theories, and things like that. So I did not go very much into the academic or scholarly, because focus was on practical sharing. It's kind of like an empowering, or we're empowering each other. Yes, evidence-based practice is very important. Systems thinking is very important. We cannot work in silos. We cannot have that just doing me. Everything is interrelated. So a ripple effect is evidently it will be affected in case of patient safety too. There's a lot of literatures out in there. I have shared my email, so please reach out to me. I'll be able to share that more in detail with the restriction of time, because we want to give time to the panelists too.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Now, I have the pleasure to introduce panelists. We have 3 panelists. Ms. Sangeeta V. She is presently working as a second line in command, in nursing command in KIMS Health Trivandrum. She is graduated from KIMS College of Nursing and has got an MBA in hospital management. She has worked as nurse leaders in various capacities. And the second panelist is Ms. Shini. Shini is the AGM nursing and Apollo Atlex Kochi. She is also has got a vast experience as nurse leaders in very prestigious hospitals like Aster Medicity, Malabar Medical College, etc. And she's a very good nurse leader. Her passion is in competency assessment and developing tools for competency assessment. Our third panelist is Captain I.C. Joseph. She also had her basic training in nursing from Armed Forces institutions and was commissioned to military nursing service in '96. After 10 years of service, she left and now she joined Medical Trust Hospital, Kochi. She is the nursing superintendent in Medical Trust Hospital, Kochi. So my first question is to Sangeeta. We heard many things about patient safety, and over a series of webinars, we were listening to it. So frequent turnover of staff is a common issue faced by most of the organization. Sangeeta, do you think these inexperienced staff can contribute errors in patient safety, especially when we say errors about medication errors? What is your view on that?
Yeah, actually, good question, and it's very relevant to our current situation also. The thing is that in our current manpower, 65% of our nurses are new to our system, new to our process, and they are freshers and inexperienced. It's not like we have so many medication errors. It's not sentinel events, but when comparing to the previous months, we have we have the spike of medication errors when we are comparing to the previous months. So whenever we do the investigation, the more problems are related to the incompetency or inexperience of the new nurses. I can share one experience. Like recently, we had a near miss medication error, but that incident made so many problems in our department to rethink about our induction process and all. In the COVID unit, one nurse already that monoclonal antibody is a new medicine to our clinicals to our medicine. So from the emergency department itself, the medicine was already administered and the patient was transferred to another department. But that nurse was a new nurse. Actually, she was not familiar with our EMR documentation and all. ISBAR is already done and the nurse was documented also, but the new nurse was not that familiar to review the EMR documentations. So she failed to check the documentation. Again, she requested the medication and she started preparing the medicines. But fortunately, the same ER nurse, she brought another patient to the same department and he saw that the nurse was preparing the same medication. So he just asked, why you're, okay, you have one more patient to give the same medication. Then she told, no, it's the same patient you transferred recently. So he told, no, actually that medicine was given and it's documented. It was already communicated to. Then only that nurse realized that the medication is already given, it was documented. Actually, it was a near miss. The thing is that the medicine's cost was the problem. It's nearly 1 lakh cost. So the financial impact was there, but fortunately it doesn't reach the patient. It was a major incident recently we had with the new nurses. It's not only the medication error. Actually, we have so many patients with there was a hike in the numbers of patient complaints, clinicians complaints, and also errors, like another medication error, pressure, and so many incidents were related to the new nurses. So our HOD initiated a brainstorming session with HR, another nursing administrator, in coordination with the management. So what we thought is, anyway, we are not going to get experienced and competent nurses because all the new, very competent nurses are leaving abroad. Good chances are there, and they are selected on the first attempt also. So anyway, we are going to get new nurses only. So we have to accommodate them. We have to train them. So after this brainstorming session, the result was like we chose 10 parameters, which is more important to a nurse should know how to give a safe patient service, patient care. So the 10 factors were chosen. So one is, it's a part of ISBAR only, effective communication, the basic clinical competency, how we can manage the specialty wise patient care. So the 10 basic parameters were selected. So previously we had a good induction program with 10 days classroom sessions, 1 month preceptorship. Then only we used to give patient assignment. But here in this crisis, we did not have that luxurious time to train each new nurses to bring into our system. So the induction process has been completely changed. So we started training the basic skills to the nurses so that they can give safe patient services. And also the implementation of medication nurse. Actually, it's a re-implementation of medication nurse. We used to, previously we had a medication nurse concept. But when we felt that we are confident to manage with the current nurses, then we implemented the comprehensive nursing care that the assigned nurse can give medication after the double level checking. But here the challenge is it's very difficult to teach each nurse. So we started, then we re-implemented the medication nurse concept. So for the extent we could control the medication errors. Again, training, that is also different training method for internship trainees and different for experienced nurses, and for nurses who have a long gap in their services. So we implemented one more thing like bridging courses, refresher courses, that is for 2 months. where the basic competencies and just review of theories will be done. After 2 months, they can also absorb as a clinical nurses. So we had changed our training module in different ways to accommodate the new nurses. So last month, actually, we set our objective of the department was zero medication error. So department, the entire department is working together to achieve that target, to make the zero medication. But we know that the zero is a very big dream for us, but still our aim is to bring down the administration errors. So we are striving for that. So what I can say that the new nurses, inexperienced nurses it's a real challenge for us to control the errors, means to achieve the patient safety.
Thank you, Sangeeta. Shini, stress as a personal factor can be a threat to patient safety. What is your opinion about it? Please limit your time to 5 to 6 minutes. Thank you.
Good afternoon, team. Thank you for the opportunity given and the question raised in this forum. Answer to the question is yes. Definitely, stress is a vital factor for the patient safety. Let me explain. Nurses and other healthcare professionals around the world work long shifts full of interruptions, complications, and stress. All these factors can lead to errors that harm patients. Nurses' stress is a very real thing. I think we all can relate. Regardless of how much we love our work, stress can have a significant impact on patient safety. A lot of this nurse stress was due to often temporary, heavy workloads that required them to work longer hours than normal. Stress is without a doubt a part of everyone's life. Within a hospital settings, nurses often face multiple sources of work-related stress, including constant noise, interpersonal conflicts with other healthcare professionals, workload demands, unfamiliarity with the task, inexperience, shortage of time, role conflicts, dealing with death and dying, lack of resources, lack of support from co-workers and supervisors, patient aggressiveness or violence, increased patient loads, and challenging patients. And as we all know that human beings have limited attention spans. We perform worse when we are tired. We can only focus one thing at a time. We forget things when system asks us to go beyond these and other limits. Failures can occur. One of the biggest challenges in addressing work-related stress and burnout is the difficulty of knowing before problem arises, when someone has reached their maximum workload. And I would like to share an incident that happened with one of our hospitals. A nurse who was assigned with 7 patients during night shift was planning for the morning care. As we all know, it is a very hectic morning care, like sponge bath, vitals monitoring, blood sampling, dressing, pre-medication to surgery patients. Simultaneously, she received an admission for OT transfer because it was an emergency surgery. So she shifted the patient to OT after completing all the pre-operative procedures. Once she was back to ward, she was delayed with other patient medications, and one of the patient bystander was quite upset, got upset with her. So in a hurry, the IV medications and Rahuls 2 medications infused directly through the IV line. Suddenly, patient collapsed and had to shift to ICU. And when we inquired about the incident, the patient is a well experienced, regardless of their experience, their intelligence, their vigilance, we all make mistakes. So what she said was, I was in a hurry, I was stressed out and confused when patient attendant scolded for delay in medication. That was the cause for that incident. So from that incident, what we have done is that cross-checking of medications. Then we have started with providing tea and snacks during night, and they were asked to take breaks in between the night shifts. But in spite of all things, again, mistake happens. That is all because when they were under pressure. So let me conclude in this that stress as a personal factor can be a threat to human patient safety. Thank you.
Aji, can you unmute yourself?
Hello.
Aji, can you unmute yourself?
I think we have lost her, ma'am. She's not connected.
Okay. If you have the question, you can ask her, Ajita, to IC.
Samuel?
What's the question?
Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yes, I see. We can hear you.
I guess you should go ahead.
You need to ask your own question and answer since we lost Aji.
Okay, fine.
Please go ahead, IC.
Yeah. Thank you. Good afternoon to all my good friends. I just wanted to share, what Ms. Viji said, the patient safety is one of the major concern in the healthcare system nowadays.
I'm so sorry, the system fell down, so I couldn't make it as IC. Hope you heard the question.
Yeah, can you
Started
hear?
answering.
Please carry
No
on. Please
question.
carry on.
She
Okay.
started sharing.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, please carry on.
Yeah. And the ensuring the patient safety is one of the biggest tasks what we face in our day-to-day practice. So I think almost everything is covered. I will share a few incidents what I have encountered during my professional life, right from my training. Now I will tell you one incident when I was a student. This happened in 90s. I was second year student. I was posted in a pediatric ward for night duty along with one of my friends. And we both were giving medication. The 10 o'clock medication we both were giving. And we have the habit, those days we don't have the cardiac system or we don't have the medication app and all. We carry a treatment book in which the treatment of all the patients are entered. And we look into the book and dispense the drug. This is a practice we follow. We both were, we were running the night duties and I think this is the 4th or 5th day. By then, I was almost by heart all the medicines of the patient. So I said, since we two are sharing the business of medication, I said, okay, you take the book, I will give my own. I remember all the drugs. Then I started giving the medicine. I almost finished my medicine. I went to one of the boys. He was getting tabbed Darufilin half at night. And I was talking to this girl where I was practicing there. None of them were Malayalis. And my friend was unfortunately Malayali. I was talking to her in Malayalam and giving the medicine. Instead of giving the half tablet Darufilin, I gave full tablet to that kid. I didn't realize that time. I went to another child because I never had to see the book because I was totally relying on my memory. Went to another child. That child was getting one full tablet. Suddenly I remembered I did a mistake. I gave that one full tablet to the patient which I had given previously instead of giving it half. I was in trouble. I got shocked because I am just 2 years, second year student. I went, I told my friend, I committed this mistake. I have given the double dose. As usual, like any other friend, she told me that you keep quiet, nothing will happen. We will watch the child. If we go and report, tomorrow you will have to stand in front of PT. Then I thought of that. Then again, I got scared because the patient might develop some complications. Our knowledge is only that level. So I decided that time I will go. But the thing is that in the pediatric ward, only students are posted. Provided there is a nursing officer working opposite to the ward, she will give the cover. I mean, she will look after, she will supervise us. So I went, I thought of going and reporting that nursing officer. I went there, I apologized, I said I got into this mistake. Then she came along with me. She saw the baby. She didn't say. She never accused me. She came, so then she told me that you just observe the baby and you do one thing, you just inform your pediatrician. Maybe she must be knowing with the half of, with the double dose of the Duraflame, nothing will go wrong. But she insisted me to inform the pediatrician this mistake, what you have done. The same way, I called up the pediatrician. I informed him that I have done given the double dose. He also never said anything. He said, you just observe the baby and you don't repeat it again. This was the one of the incidents. Okay. The factor you all might have understood what all things contributed me to commit this mistake. During the this environment, I am a student. What are the factors? I am a student. I'm not supposed to give medication without supervision. I'm not. This is not the error. I'm telling means those days the concept was different. Now there are those days the students can be utilized as good as a staff nurse. The second thing, my competency. I'm only 2-year second-year student. I'm not experienced. The same way what we get nowadays. The new trainees are coming and making the issues, like Sangeeta said. And third thing is there was no proper system to ensure the proper medication. Okay, now I am going to another complicated incident so that we will come to know what are the human factors which can influence the patient safety.
You have 2 more minutes, I see.
Okay, and one day, the same day, that day I have about 8 years of experience. I was posted in ICU and the environment is ICU 7-bedded, having 7-bed full patients. One sepsis case was there. I was carrying for the first time and I had a help. The medical assistant, one medical assistant was there. He was not competent, he was not interested. His intention was to join the Navy, but not as to work as a nurse. And his competency, those days we don't use the word of competency, we say that he will create a headache for you, that's all. Nowadays, the latest trend in 2000, when I became the administrator, I used to think, and then only we came to know about the competency. Understand? So, what happened? The patient was in sepsis. I gave him the antibiotic injection to go and give the patient. That gentleman, he went and gave, infused, administered the injection, but the patient was having, he always keep a 3-way extension. He blocked, the patient was on inotropes, was maintaining only on inotropes. He blocked the infusion, gave the injection, forward to unblock the infusion. When I know the capability, I knew the capability of that gentleman. So immediately after sending him for injection, I ran behind him. I know he will create issues. I ran behind him. When I went there, I saw the BP is falling down. He has forgotten, he gave the injection, he's run away from there. So what I meant to say that the situation, what all can make us to commit mistakes. The environment where the patient, where you have 7 patients, only 1 nurse is posted. And when you the nurse who is working in ICU is not competent enough, and there is no facility. That time there was no proper system to maintain the nurse-patient ratio and maintain assess the competency of the person. So I mean to say what we need to have proper systems in place to prevent, to avoid, to minimize the errors happening in the workplace. We all are working in India. We have got so much of limitation. Yeah, so much of limitation. So within that limitation, we should be able to work. So we should design thinking that the patient, the human factors, considering the human factor knowledge, we must design the systems accordingly to minimize the errors in the healthcare system. Then only you will be able to work satisfactory, work easily or without any difficulties in the at present scenario. That's what I wanted to tell you. We need to have the proper system. Proper system, I mean the proper process and protocols. And if you have time, I will tell you one more example. When we have the proper system and protocols in place, what is going wrong? On what basis we create the system and the protocols? The other day, I came to know from one of my friends saying that she also joined from the service recently to a private organization where the incident was a great mistake. One nurse infused a wrong drug which was not ordered for that particular patient to the patient. That was an incident. That drug was an antibiotic, that was antifungal, that was an antibiotic. It was not ordered for the patient. She infused. That head of the nursing, she called me and said there was a problem. I am facing this problem. I'm not able to find out because the drug is not ordered, prescribed in that hospital on that particular day. I don't know how she managed to get that medicine. So when I told her, you go to the pharmacy, you find out exactly what happened. Then this head of the nurse, the particular nurse was on night duty. She was not able to trace her. Somehow she managed to trace her. She asked what went wrong. The girl said the end of the story. This patient was ordered a drug which was a combination of 2 other antibiotics. So this girl, when she started indenting the drug, she could not find this drug in her stock. So she immediately called up the pharmacy. She asked, this particular drug is available or not? The pharmacy staff said, no, this particular drug is not available, but we have got that molecule separate. We have got 2 separate that combinations we have got in a separate form. That was, I believe that was Orni-O. The combination was ofloxacin and Ornidazole. So the pharmacist suggested the nurse that you indent oflox and Ornid. The nurse heard only the Ornid, but instead of oflox, she heard Frescon. So she indented Frescon, that was fluconazole, that was antifungal. So that girl brought.
Yes, sorry to interrupt you. Time is up.
Also, okay. This is what I meant to say, that you need to have proper system in place to minimize the error.
Thank you, IC. We heard about from 4 speakers that the human factors lens assumes that people are fallible and that we are going to make mistakes, no matter how well qualified and trained we are. We work within systems that can elicit human errors. They are not necessarily an indication for incompetency. The question is, how do you minimize them? Finding ways to minimize human errors within our system is the focus of human factors, and that is what our 4 eminent speakers covered during this 1 hour also. Thank you for your wonderful deliberations. And now the session is open for discussion for 5 minutes also. Thank you. As the time is very limited, I request Madam Tangam to give her valuable comments.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Very wonderful session and very close to my heart. I think healthcare, nurses, clinicians, all of us exist to give care without harm. And no one comes to hospital with an intention of harming someone, with an intention of making mistake. I've been in healthcare for 38 plus years, and for the last 12 years, I'm in training. So I come to know about cultures, attitudes, learnings, concerns. So one thing that if I would like to emphasize after listening to all your experiences, starting with Viji, where US is striving to become high reliable organization. I'm not very sure when will that come to India, though many may claim that, we want to be high reliable organization. And to be very candid, we are still very afraid to admit our own mistakes and to learn from it. That is the challenge, because it's very heartening to see that today errors were shared. I think the day that when we are confident to say we had this mistake and we looked at it without blaming, shaming, and naming the person. We looked at the structure, we looked at the process to ensure that this mistake will not happen again, because I'm very sure that you picked up from human factors discussion that there are many elements that can lead to an error. It is not the individual most of the time. Many times it is the leadership who has failed to look at the process and failed to provide the environment that is required. So some of the stories that you were sharing, we don't have enough time to deep dive. So obviously we could not understand the background completely because all of you had very less time to do that. So if you deep dive into one error, I'm very sure you will find something in the environment that you can fix rather than fixing the person. So I would say, I think this is a very, very interesting aspect of patient safety is the human factors. I am very sure we are not going to stop here with this one webinar. This is going to be dealt with more in coming time under any umbrella for sure, because the more I read about it, the more I am convinced that we are not doing enough to support our people. We are never doing enough to support our people, and very, very quick in fixing blame on someone or fixing somebody else or fixing somebody in the environment to say because of this it went wrong. So maybe we become part of solution, not to remain part of the problem. So very apt and very elaborate discussion. Thank you so much to Kerala chapter, and very big thank you to Viji, Sangeeta, Shini, sorry, not Shiny, Shini, and IC for a fantastic deliberation and very well on time. We are 1:07. We still have a couple of more minutes to the chapter. I said 1:10, we can wrap up, not an issue. Thank you once again. A very big thank you. Welcome all of you to every month's Empower Hour. And a special welcome to September 17th. We have a special 3 hours webinar on patient safety on World Patient Safety. So hope to see all of you there on that day. With that note, thank you so much, Lieutenant Colonel Dr. Aji and her team. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Now I invite Lieutenant Colonel Amita Nase to propose the vote of thanks. Amita, are you there?
Good morning, everyone. Am I audible, Aji?
Yes.
Good morning, everyone. I feel honored to deliver the vote of thanks on this Empower Hour of Kerala chapter, ANEI. First of all, I extend my thanks to all the office bearers of ANEI. Ma'am Tangam Gomez, National President ANEI. Ma'am Jyoti Clara, Vice President ANEI.
Hello.
Looks like we lost her.
Ms. Shubhata Sagarukar, ma'am, Secretary, and Ma'am Ajita PS, Treasurer. Thank you all, ma'am, for the assertive leadership and guidance for making this session a success, for making the Power Hour. I wanted to thank the entire group for their excellence and such an enlightening presentation. Ms.Viji George, ma'am, Captain IC Joseph, Ms. Sangeeta, and Ms. Shini Thomas. I would say they have packed a lot of valuable information into a short package. And thank you all for giving us such a quality time and information on this very challenging topic. And of course, lastly but not the least, thanks to the attendees and for joining us and making this session a success. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Thank you, Amita.